Tonight's presentation used to be called The Birds of San Luis Obispo County, but I think, Dave, you've renamed it to The Birds of the Morro Bay Bird Festival, and so it's more in tune with exactly what we're here for, is to see some fantastic photos of the birds that you're going to hopefully get to see when you come to the festival. Dave's been involved in the Morro Bay Bird Festival for quite a long time now. He's been a leader, and I think he's leading 4 or 5 trips in this year's festival. So he's one of our trusted leaders, and we really appreciate his participation. And Dave, I'm going to turn it over to you and throw you up on the spotlight.
Okay. There I am, son of a gun. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dave Keeling. I'm got to go through my, keep your fingers crossed while I do some screen sharing. And let me try one more thing. And I may be as adjusted as I'm going to be. First of all, welcome everybody, an overview of what I'm going to do tonight. What I thought I was going to do, my presentation is not working. How'd you do that? What did you do?
I just moved you over.
Okay, so first goal tonight, other than getting the show running, is to spotlight the beauty and diversity of our county birds. That's our big goal. Our second goal is to get you as excited as we can be about the birds that we're going to see. And oops, finger there, mess up. A smaller goal 3, we'll do a little bit of bird comparing and as the night goes by. There are 285 species on the Morro Bay Bird Festival list. I've got 277 of them, 277 in the presentation tonight. That means I've got 8 that aren't in. And all the images are photos taken by me. And the structure of how I hope to show them all to you is 3 parts: rarities, land birds, water birds. The 277 species that I'm going to show you are color coded. I am to blame for the 277 decisions of who was green that you should see and yellow that you might see, and the rarities that you're less likely to see. And when I was doing that, I thought, you know, about 90% of the birds, everybody would agree on the category they're in. And that leaves about 10% where you're welcome to disagree with me on what I did. The running time of the 3 parts is about 39 minutes. So we should have a lot of time at the end to talk. And so I'm hoping that while things are going, my 3 different parts, that you will enter whatever comments you want to enter into chat, but particularly requests of what birds or pictures you might like to come back to and look at for a longer bit of time. Okay, so the first part, the rarities, running time about a little under 12 minutes. The rarities include both birds that are rare, there aren't very many of them, and rarely seen. So sometimes they're hard to spot, like for me, the Pacific wren. If they're nocturnal, we don't see them as well. So there's several owls in here. If they're pelagic, we don't see them if we're on shore, but if you're on the pelagic trips, you may see these. Some of the birds, they're here in abundance, different times of the year. But important thing to say about the birds that are the rarities here, when someone reports them, they might be easy to see. And I'm happy to say that an amazingly large number of the rarities have been recently reported. So you're going to see some of these birds, and I hope we appreciate it that you do. The the 1 out of 10 and the 10 out of 10, that's to help me. It's the number of times that these birds were reported as being seen in San Luis Obispo County in the last 10 Januaries. Not perfect, but a good guide for us at the Bird Festival is how likely we are to see things. The vermilion flycatcher, one time in the last 10 years, but it has been seen recently, so hope's eternal. And the harlequin duck is rare. It's been seen all 10 of the last years. There might be one bird in the county, but if it hangs out at Port San Luis and gets reported at Port San Luis, and you go to Port San Luis, you got a decent chance to see it. The order that I present the rare birds confuses me, so you've got no chance at all. But it'll sort of be most rare first, and so expect that harlequin duck to not be in the early going. And if it works right, bird names show up a few seconds after the bird image. So you all get a chance to do some IDing before the names show up. My computer is supposed to let me adjust that timing thing, but my version of PowerPoint did not let me. So it's not perfect. And a rocky start here at first in that the sandhill crane is the only bird photo that is not taken in San Luis Obispo County. So everybody after this is taken in San Luis Obispo. And here are the 8 species that I've never seen. 6 of them are pelagic and 2 others. And so this is it for them. And now things should be normal from here on. Elegant tern is out of season. And I will start talking less, and we can all just bird watch now. Oh, wish this bird would come back. The phalarope migrates through. Gorgeous bird. I'm surprised this bird is so small, the 1 out of 10 thing for it. And there's a big hint that the cattle egret, because it's with a cattle. One time, Costas. See that recently reported up in the right corner? I've done that for as many as I've kept track of, so there'll be a few of those. Recently reported. Matoi, nice bird. And I emphasize that's the wrong plumage for this bird. It's the only picture I have of him. And he's recently reported as well. And not this one, no. Handsome sparrow. What I was unable to do is make those bird names show up just a little earlier. I couldn't do it as a handsome bird. No, please come back. Please come back. Please come back. See the full moon there? There's some fancy alignment. Handsome bird, a one-timer. And another bird I'm surprised it's reported so seldom, because we get excited when it's here. Nice orioles. Wrong plumage on the summer tanager for January. Recently reported. Yellow-headed blackbird. Recently reported. I still say pack slope flycatcher, but I'm wrong. Please come back. Eastern phoebe. I have only terrible pictures of condors. I'm first of several apologies. Kind of a grouping now of some mostly pelagic birds. My photos might not be pelagic, but they're mostly seen pelagic. That's a good photo. If I do say so, if I was chatting, I would say that's a fine photo. Count the birds in this picture, win a prize. Okay, that's the end of the pelagic mostly. It's a good bird. Good size comparison there. The greater is fuzzy, but the size comparison is good. And this bird, I took that picture yesterday, one of them, and here's the comparison. Darker, thicker bill is the yellow crown, and the spots on the wings. Here, let me try to go back. The spots on the wings are bigger on the black crown and much smaller on the yellow crown. Here we go. What a handsome bird. There's a good size comparison as well. And recently reported, I didn't get to see it, but it was down in Morro Bay. And check this out, top and bottom, same bird, 42 days apart. Look how much the plumage changed. Oh, please come back and visit us. Who doesn't love black skimmers? Recently reported, maybe we'll see an ibis. Recently reported, down by Morro Rock, wandering tattler. Recently reported, black scoter. I love the windy day photo. It was just blowing sand like crazy. Roofs and Allens. The Allens seen every year, the roof is 1 in 10. So if you see a brown Hummer, probably an Allen's. A few warblers now. Recently reported, Tennessee. Recently reported, Nashville. Recently reported, so maybe we'll have some good warbler sightings this year. Recently reported, black and white. Recently reported, hermit warbler. Recently reported, summer tanager. Handsome. Huh. Not recently reported to my knowledge. Wish we saw these birds more often. The eyes in the back of the head thing is always cute. Also recently reported the rough-legged hawk. Chipping sparrow. I think recently reported swamp sparrow. I think they saw that at the Christmas bird count, was it? I don't know. Okay, a little sapsucker stuff here. Try to take in the sapsuckers, how they look the same and different. And then the comparison. Red-naped, great name. Red-breasted, great name. Yellow-bellied, not so much. White on the face, for me, more white. Sage thrasher. What a handsome bird. And recently reported, I might add. Another bird I have only bad pictures of. A favorite bird, my goodness. Handsome, handsome, handsome bird. As a bird that I can't, is reported much more often than I ever see. White-throated sparrow, nice bird. A few gulls. The gulls, I'm not a super gull fan, so they might be much less rare to other people. Don't ask me questions about gulls. Another delightful bird. Seems comical to me. And a very handsome, handsome bird. Is comparison bird, white on the wing. Recently reported, and more of a grimace on the snow goose, recently reported. Some different plumages of the murre. I have only bad pictures of this bird. My apologies. Handsome, handsome. Comparably handsome. There, male and female, and a red-breasted merganser off to the side. Oh, what a beautiful bird. This is the finale here. Bam! We have made it through part one, and I'm going to pause for a minute or two, hoping that you'll find the button for the chat room. And if you saw some birds, you go, I didn't get to see that bird long enough. Or if you have some questions, if you have some comments. And I don't know what I'm doing. So if the pause is not a good idea,
Okay,
I apologize.
so you got a request for the northern saw wet owl.
Okay, I'm not going to go back to it now, but at least somebody wanted to see it. Okay.
Several requests for summer.
Oh, okay. Requests are coming in apparently. So I thank you for that. And I'm going to launch into land birds. These are birds. Now we've done the rarities, so these are birds you should see and might see, much more higher probability. Running time 1446 if I timed it right. And I won't have to talk as much. Bird watching time. Lowly rock pigeon. It's a good photo of the mourning dove. Nice light. Nice display of the annas. Always amusing acorn woodpeckers. Okay, time to, we've got the hairy, we've got the downy, we've got the nuttles, ready to do a little side by side. Nuttles stripy on the back, downy much smaller and a quite stubby bill, particularly compared to the hairy, the proportionally small. There's a hard bird for me to photograph. Oh, what a handsome bird. I like to be, I was out at the state park. Very handsome with only brown. Easier to be handsome with blue. And that's not very frequently seen, the leucistic bird. And a mockingbird that doesn't know he's not supposed to eat monarch butterflies. And I think that's a lizard tail. I could be wrong. Little comparison, pretty easy to tell the difference between these two birds. I love this guy. Back to very, very, very handsome. Some more nice light. Handsome. Variable amounts of yellow around the eye on the yellow-billed magpie. I assume it's an age thing. All these birds you're going to get to see. They're so cute. Get some wrens. The Bewicks eat a lot of spiders. Handsome bird. Note the color of the eyes are different, male and female. And a longer tail. There's a side by side. Tail often up on the wren tit and long. And a ruby crown kinglet. And the quite close look-alike Hutton's vireo. Here we go. Vireo, much thicker bill, thin bill for the ruby crown, and black below that white wing bar. And a warbler with many different variations, the orange crown. And another warbler with many different variations. And handsome. Also handsome. You can look at the female at the bottom there. She's often confused. Very handsome. And I love the picture on the right. It looks like a Halloween thing. Epaulettes. Much less, just, most people I think would put this in with a rare rather than uncommon, but there it is. Starling. Another leucistic bird. Quite a bit of variation in this bird, song sparrow. A reasonable amount of variation in this bird, Lincoln. A reasonable amount of variation in this bird, a fox. Not so much in this one. They all look the same to me. And the lark sparrow, pretty uniform. And Savannah sparrow. Golden crown and his good friend, white crowned. I don't know how much they like to bathe more than other birds, but I've got a jillion bathing white crowned sparrows. Bird that used to be rare and is established so well now. Speaking of different color variations, this is a great example. Ooh. And I don't have the best pictures of the purple, but the house finch stripy and the purple finch color everywhere are the sort of things that I go by. Our goldfinches. I love the back view of the bird. It's so different than the front and the sides. And some raptors. Youngster on the right, both of these two pictures. Yeah. Handsome red-shouldered. I love this red-shouldered. Ah, if you don't laugh at that, there's no hope. And note the wasp in this picture, quite sharply focused, I might add. What a handsome bird. Ooh, my goodness. Youngster. And this bird was getting ready to upchuck some, it wasn't calling out. Beautiful. And here's not a perfect comparison, but they can look quite a bit alike, different at the top. The size of the bill on the bald eagle compared to a hefty bill on the osprey. Okay. Several different aerial interactions there. Quite different plumages on the male and female of the harrier. The youngster on the right. So pretty. Nice light. Sorry for the wire. This is a difficult bird for me to photograph. A Cooper's hawk, much more common for me. I see them much more often. Here's the best comparison I have. Look how straight the tip of the tail is in the sharp shinned and how it's not straight in the Coopers. And from the front, the Coopers looks a little bit like the red-shouldered hawk. Handsome bird. Like father, like son. Peregrine with some bands, leg bands. Couple of kids. What a handsome bird. And the one on the right, 1997. That's a slide. Velvia, if you're old enough to remember. The burying owl yesterday. Okay, we're coming down the home stretch. Got a few primarily Carrizo birds. You might see a raven somewhere else, but how did it get its name? Lots of these this year. It's a good year for mountain bluebirds out there. Always a good year for bell sparrows. Handsome, handsome. Not exclusively Carrizo, of course, but sort of out there. Perugian's hawk. I don't have the very front of the dark morph, but it's quite darker. Very falcon. And then this is not a strictly a Carrizo bird, but They're always out there at the KCL campground. I call them the hosts. I've seen them every time I go out there. And as you can see, we have made it to the end of the land birds part 2, one part to go. I'm going to pause again in case your fingers need to go to the chat and I don't know, a request, a comment, a question.
You do have more picture requests in the chat to the end.
They're coming in, but they're the looking back at them is going to be after I finish the third set. So that's the way.
Dave, somebody asked if those peregrines nested in the palm trees. Were those from the rock? The peregrines, the
peregrines, the 2 juveniles were down at Pismo. The bird with the peregrine with the Kierman's gull was at Oceano. The peregrine with the bird that it was consuming was in Baywood Park. The problem with the peregrines at the rock is they're almost always too far away for good photos. Okay. Remember, I'm a person that doesn't know what I'm doing, but the third and final part of the presentation is water birds. A little under 12 minutes ought to take care of this. And again, these are birds that you've got good chances to see. And there's some very handsome ones. I think that's a clam that the mallard had there. Pintail, very handsome. Black butt is the big hint on the gadwall. There's a big hint in the bottom picture there, the blue-winged teal. And the color is the hint. And the birds feeding in a circle, following each other. I've only seen the shovelers and I guess white pelicans do that a little bit. Look at the bill. Scops a little bigger, but not noticeably quite a bit. Left and right, the bill is narrow, the little black thing is narrow and quite defined and wide and a little more nebulous in the greater scop. Handsome bird. And I think that's a hagfish that the surf scooter has. And I think that's a crab that the common goldeneye has. And everyone who takes pictures has more than enough bufflehead pictures. So what a beautiful bird. And resisting putting the ruddy duck in the full breeding plumage. Here's the handsome bird, the common merganser, and the red-breasted, and particularly the females. Common merganser, much thicker bill. Look how much thicker that bill is. And the white around the eye might not be 100% reliable on the red-shouldered, or excuse me, red-breasted. Oh, so pretty. Ooh. Canada goose. Size comparison of this bird with the Canada goose, the cackling goose. There's no comparison here. This is just a humor photo. At least I think it's funny. And our Brant geese. And some coots displaying a little bit. Grebe time. Nice eared grebe. Nice horn grebe. And here's the comparison. Horn 3 on the left, eared 3 on the right. Cleaner white boundary, black-white boundary on the horn. My favorite Valentine. Come on. You gotta love that. And this is Christmas Day. Just what is that, 2 weeks ago? A baby on the back. Comparison time, Clark's grebe, much oranger bill, and where the black stops and starts is different. Pipefish, red-throated loon and common loon. Red-throated loon, a little smaller, thinner bill, head almost always pointed up. Thicker bill on the common loon, and the plumage on the back is a little different. Cormorant time, double-crested. Blue eyes and a big fish. A little bit of red, a little white. And then here's all 3 cormorants in the same photo. See if you can identify which one is who. Some group feeding. David and Goliath. That was Goliath on the right. Handsome bird, brown pelican. And then everybody has a jillion pictures of great blue. That's about the biggest fish I've ever seen one catch. Great egret. His good friend, the snowy egret. And then I love these comparisons. They speak for themselves. The youngster, kind of entertaining at the bottom. We saw the bittern as a comparison with the least bittern earlier. One of my favorite green heron poses. Seeing a Virginia rail out in the open like this is very unusual. Just to see the whole bird. Wow. Lots of oyster catcher pictures because they're entertaining birds. So pretty. And look how big that avocet is compared to the teal. They're almost the same size. And a plover with a meal, small meal. Yellowish legs, a little orange at the back of the bill. Snowy, a little smaller, semi-palmated, yellow legs a little bigger. Sanderling. And it doesn't look much like a snowy plover, but I see them on the same places on the beaches. And they can look a little bit alike. Dunlin, the biggest peep. Here's some comparisons with a least sandpiper and a western sandpiper. See just how much bigger the Dunlin is. red knot. 4 birds, 4 species. That is very uncommon. Look through your photos. Least sanderling. Or sandpiper. I said that wrong. And there's a comparison. Bill's different, leg color different, size different. And the black turnstone, I have a jillion pictures of black turnstones. They're very cooperative birds. And a surf bird. And a side-by-side. Nice reflection. A little bit more spotty. The greater yellow legs. Okay. Everybody's resting. Some alarm call went out. Everybody pops up. I didn't load in the next one, but they all put their heads back away about 10 seconds later. Will it? What a great bill. The windmill and the long-billed curlew. Little comparison here, the bill length, but look at the top of the head. Make sure you notice wimbrel kind of solid there. Bill gull, California gull. So billed. Okay, Mr. Common, Western gull, and 6 different food items for the Western gull. And none of them was a hamburger, but I'm sure it would grab a French fry or a hamburger. Handsome, handsome bird. Heerman. And youngster. Let's just turn royal turn and Caspian. A little comparison. Caspian redder with color at the end of the bill, and the top of the head's a little different too. But we're almost finished here. The Bird Super Bowl, Caspian terns versus the American avocets. And I made it. So I am ready to have Bob come back in. Do you want me to stop screen sharing now? What?
Yeah, if I have requests for what people want you to go back to.
Okay.
Okay, so first was the northern saw-whet owl.
I am going to find an owl. The northern saw-whet owl I've only seen one time. And here they go. Oh. Poop. I'm sorry, folks. I'm slow on the draw. What a cutie. I was up at Cerro Alto Campground when I saw it.
Okay. I have several. Rufous hummer, Tennessee warbler, yellow-bellied sapsucker, Pacific golden plover.
The Pacific golden plover.
And if you want, you can make those small ones bigger.
Yeah. At a request for the Pacific golden plover. They close to the same size as black-bellied plovers. So you're always, when you're seeing them, you're trying to go, is this a golden plover or just another much more common black-bellied plover? And the gold on the back is pretty reliable for the golden plovers.
Okay, Rufous hummer. And I think someone had asked for the comparison, yeah.
The Rufous hummer. When I read books, I am told that occasionally something that is a Rufous hummer has green on its back, just like an Allen's hummer. And then I don't know how you would know it was a Rufus. So I am not good on that. But when it's virtually all Rufus on the back and no green, I go with Rufus hummingbird, even though there's a little color on the top of the head that's greenish. And but if you that's what I do. And the Gorget is a little different colors than this, depending on the direction of the light and whatnot. Sometimes it's more gold colored, sometimes it's more reddish colored.
Tennessee warbler.
And Tennessee warbler. Oh, I don't see these birds very often at all. They are happy to have a look. I can't add much to what I've got here on.
Yellow-bellied sapsucker. For comparison.
And sapsuckers. The red-breasted, the amount of red on the breast of the red-breasted sapsucker is quite variable, but there's always some, and sometimes it goes down farther. The red nape sapsucker always has red nape right there on the back, and the yellow-bellied doesn't always show a yellow belly. Apparently, if its feathers are fluffed, there's yellow there, the skin or something. I'm not 100% sure. I've seen some yellow sort of tint, but the white on the face in all the pictures I have of yellow-bellied sapsuckers is wider than the red-naped, and it's almost not showing there on the red-breasted.
Okay, woodpecker comparison.
The woodpeckers are Nuttall's pretty straightforward, black and white stripes on the back. In some other location, there's another woodpecker that looks quite like Nuttall's, but it's not here. And the downy, if you can, the bill is not pointed exactly the right direction on the downy, but when you see them in the field, you go, that bill is shorter compared to its face than other woodpeckers that I see. Very stubby bill, and I don't know, it's probably half the weight of a hairy woodpecker. But if you're not totally familiar with them. The size differences they're easier when you don't need help anymore.
Hutton's Vireo kinglet comparison.
Oh, yeah. Here we come. Notice that when I get to the kinglets here, below the white stripe on the wing, there's black there, black there, black there. That's pretty reliable. And with the Hutton's Vireo below the big white stripe, maybe a hint of black, but not so much. And when I do the side-by-side comparisons, the not much black below the wings and then or the wing bar and then black below the wing bars is pretty good. But if they ever sit still long enough, the thickness of the bill is like, I'm done. The Hutton's Vireo, how much bigger is that than a kinglet? It's a lot. And the bird is a little bit bigger. I tried to make them to scale here side by side. The bird is a little bigger, but the bill and that black are two good things to check.
Tricolored blackbird, and then I'm not sure who that is. Glover, maybe?
It's a tricolored blackbird. I don't see this bird very often, but when I do, it seems like I've seen individual birds where the black covers up the red. Pretty common. I don't know if that's reliable. That's anecdotal, but the picture where the bird is preening gave me a good view of the red white stuff, and with the red-winged blackbirds, red, yellow, or sometimes just almost all red. I got a few photos of red-winged blackbirds where there's just not much yellow there, but red, yellow, and red, white.
Golden crown sparrow.
Golden crown sparrow.
Oh, and American pipit, sorry, was the other bird that was asked for with the tricolor.
Okay. Golden crown sparrow has, like the white crown, some dark bands on the top of the head, but the amount of gold in the crown is really variable. And I included this bird on the left because there wasn't so much golden. I don't know what else to say about them. I don't. My pivot back this way. Yeah. And there's some more gray pipits versus more brown pipits. And I'm never 100% sure how much that's different lighting versus different individuals, but I think it's not all lighting. I think sometimes they're a little more on the gray side and sometimes they're a little more on the brown side. And you see them out walking in the sand on the beach. And then they classically don't look like anybody else, so you can usually identify them.
Okay, comparison of Coopers with the others, with the sharp shin and the red shoulder.
Coop. And my Cooper's world, I have quite a few Cooper's pictures. But I have very few sharpshins, and so I apologize there, but here's some good front and back classic Cooper. Here's some front and back classic juvenile Cooper. And then the comparison. The sharpshin is smaller, but I have made mistakes a dozen times when I think it's small, but then I study the photos and ask Tommy Dell, it's a Cooper's. So that size difference is subtle enough that that's a tough one. The eye is supposed to be proportionately smaller on the sharpshin. And when I look at my photos carefully, I go, ooh, not so reliable. The only thing for me is the tail is quite straight across the bottom. And in almost every Cooper's Hawk, it kind of goes up on the side. It goes up on the side. It goes up a little bit on the side. So it's less straight. And I am not a good enough birder to do this better. So my apologies if there's something else to be said that I'm not saying.
The house finches with the variable.
Yes, the house finches. No two house finches are the same, I think. Oop, I'm going the wrong way for the house finches. And here we are. There's a female here, not much color at all. There's a yellow orange version. There's a, I can't make all of it the same color version. There's quite pale red version. And this guy begins to look like a purple finch, and the stripes on the side are still quite distinct. So I think it's a house finch. My purple finch, I have very few to choose from, but what I think of when I think of purple finches is, oh my, the color doesn't stop. Quite with a house finch, see if there can be some color, but mostly you go down the back, there's more color on a, and here's my comparisons. It might not be perfect. Stripies on the house finch, stripies on the house finch. Sometimes there are very subtle stripies on the purple finch, but mostly no stripies, and color seems to be everywhere, at least a little bit.
American goldfinch.
And the goldfinch looks so much different in the non-January months. But this is their January plumage. And they look so much less like, the normal breeding plumage. I should have put one in just for comparison, but there they are. That's what I've got.
Okay, osprey with the wasp, golden eagle, and then that bald eagle golden comparison with the juveniles.
Osprey pictures with them having a fish are a dime a dozen. I've got a jillion of them. So the wasp was kind of a special treat. And the fact that he came out so nicely focused is pleasing to me. And that's a pretty good sized fish that he's got. And bald eagle Parrot?
The golden,
Golden
golden and
eagle,
bald.
bald eagle.
Yeah.
Go there.
yeah, that one.
I was convinced when I took the picture that this was an immature bald eagle. If someone wants to chastise me and say, you know what, that's a golden eagle that's not quite up to snuff, I would say, okay. But my golden eagles, when fully mature, pretty nice on the thing. The one on the bottom right here is a immature golden eagle and has some white under the wings there. And maybe I should be smart enough to stop and get Bob to come in and,
Sure, yeah, there are more requests, but
Oh.
the time is
I don't,
Yeah, I
I don't know how tired people are. What else has somebody requested?
there's bunches of them, canvas back, the red-breasted merganser versus common merganser, Canada versus Catkin goose, western versus Clark grebe, the cormorants together, Dunlins and the least short.
Holy smokes. So,
Hope says, keep going. Thank you, Hope.
so I'm sorry. I remember somebody said canvas back. Female on the top left. Excellent light on that canvas back on the right upper. And the lower one there, the bird had been mucking around at the bottom of the water there. And so it had it's not as, there might be some muck there on the canvas back, but what a handsome bird. Oh,
Merganser comparison, red-breasted common.
mergansers. Let me stop at mergansers. Common merganser, very difficult to photograph well. The exposure on the common merganser is very tough, the male particularly. But if I look at the males, there's enough difference in them overall that it works pretty well. The females, it can take a while. But the bill is always thinner on the red-breasted and distinctly thinner when you see them. It looks like a thick bill on the common merganser. And I have one picture of a female common merganser with a little bit of white by the eye, but I've got a jillion pictures that's reliable on the red-breasted merganser, the white there. And I don't know how I have one common merganser with a little bit of white there. So I don't know how often the white part can mess you up. But the bill, boy, that's reliable.
Shorebirds, so Dunlin versus least versus western. The photo of the 4 shorebirds all together.
Let's get down to waders here. And here's the Dunlin spot. The least and the western sandpipers are, when I go out to the shore, the most common peeps. And they're of these two sizes, close to each other in size, least sandpiper a little smaller. And the Dunlin looks like a ×2 compared to those other peeps. And that's who it's almost always, I almost always see it with those other birds. So if you see some peeps and you see a peep that's twice as big as the other peeps, if you look at the bill on the Dunlin and the Western Sandpiper, they're similar to each other. If I made the picture of the Western Sandpiper bigger, the bill would get bigger and they would look close to the same, but the sizes are noticeably different. Western and least, the more common birds are half as big as a Dunlin.
Terns, the tern comparison.
The Forster's tern is quite different. We get Arctic tern, is that the right name? Rarely, I guess not seen in January, but looks like this bird. But Forster's tern, pretty straightforward. The royal tern and the Caspian tern. Caspian tern's a little bigger. The top of the head, it's black, and in breeding season, it's solid black. But in January, it's black and white, different amounts of black and white. That's why I put in 3 pictures. The amount of black and white is not the same. But the bill is always thick and more red and with a little blackish out at the end. And the royal tern, orange, sometimes different, a little more yellow than this, but orange, less red. The color looks different. There's no dark bit out at the end. And the top of the head is white at the front and black and variable with how much boundary there is there between the white and the black. And again, in breeding plumage, it blackens up more. But in January, those, to me anyway, those pictures look like good. Here are the differences.
Okay, you got a question, what camera do you use? And then while you're answering that, if you go to the hooded versus eared grebe comparison.
I currently, the camera I use is Nikon Coolpix 1000. And there are difficulties with that camera, but its focal length is comparable to a 3000 millimeters, which is essentially a spotting scope. My camera, the Coolpix 1000, it's a spotting scope. It's amazing that you can take any pictures at all with it and have them be reasonably sharp. People complain that they have trouble getting sharp pictures with it, and I do too. But that's the camera I use today and I like. Here's the grebes. Horn grebe is a little bit bigger, but boy, it's easy not to see that. The bill on the eared is a little bit sharper, and it's easy not to see that. But the horn almost always has a lot of white and a sharp boundary to the black on the head. A lot of white and a sharp boundary. A lot of white and a sharp boundary. And the eared has a little bit of white and a little bit of white and a little bit of white. But frequently there isn't a good clean boundary between the black and the white. Less white in general. The eared is more likely to be a fluffy butt. A lot of people use the fluffy butt thing, but he doesn't always fluff its butt. And the horn, I didn't include one, but the horn sometimes does that as well. So that's not 100% reliable, but it's not bad. If you see one with a butt fluffed up like this, it's likely to be eared. And the books say there's a difference in the tip of the bill. And I find that to be completely unreliable in the field. So, my opinion.
Western and Clark's comparison.
Western and Clark's, what a fun comparison that is. And just as long as I'm here, the Western, the black comes below the eye. The bill is some color that you would include the word green when you say what color that is. Greenish yellow, yellowish green. And the Clark's, the black is above the eye, and you don't use the word green when you describe the color. Oranges, some kind of oranges. So here's if I may say so myself, a comparison that looks pretty good. The black above the eye and orange, black below the eye, and a color that you would say includes the word green. And on Christmas, when we saw the Clark tree with the baby on the back, that was at Santa Margarita Lake, and there were immature grebes of all different sizes. I've since learned, I think Tommy Dell passed along, that these birds are known to be opportunists, and they must have had an opportunity for late breeding this year because there are juveniles on Santa Margarita Lake now of all different youngster plumages.
You got a question, where to see a green heron?
I've seen green herons in lots of different places, and I don't have a go-to place. Oso Flaco Lake, for sure, I've seen them there. Santa Margarita Lake, I've seen them there. The one that I included with a funny pose was Santa Margarita Lake. I've seen them on San Luis Creek by the Bob Jones Bridge. Where else have I seen green herons? But the moral of the story is, oh, and I've seen them at up by Hearst Castle. What's the pull out there?
San Simeon. San Simeon.
San Simeon. I've seen them up at San Simeon.
Yes. Canada versus cackling goose. And the 3 cormorants together.
I'm not sure every cackling goose has the little white bit on the necklace, but typically Canada geese, I think of them as not having that little white thing. And the bill on a cackling goose, even compared to its smaller size, seems stubbier. If you look at the bill on the Canada goose here, that's a honking bill. And when you look at the bill on the cackling goose, it's like, oh, that looks dainty. And these are birds in the same picture, so the scale is whatever that is, 2-to-1. Canada goose, I don't remember if it's male or female, but sometimes either the way they hold their neck or the shortness of the neck seems to be different for male and female, and different postures. So the length of the neck being shorter in the cackling goose doesn't help me that much because sometimes a Canada goose has its neck scrunched down pretty much.
Cormorants,
Cormorants.
and then I think that's most of them. Missed a couple.
Okay, we'll stop. We'll do cormorants and then I'll mercifully stop. Double crested, the color of the bill is quite different. The branch cormorant classically has some brown right under the eye. And the blue patch is frequently not seen. And the pelagic, the amount of red is pretty variable. And the white is sometimes covered up so that you don't see it. So on the left, a pelagic cormorant, very little red. And the white, I don't even know if you'd call that white showing. But then the double crested, the color of the bill is quite easy. And the branch cormorant, the brown underneath. And if you can see the eye color, let me go back to the branch. Frank Sinatra, I don't know, old blue eyes, some quite blue. And the pelagic cormorant, greenish. And there's been far, far, far too much of me talking and not hearing anybody else, although I see there's still 63 of you out there and there were 150 of you earlier. So let me thank the last 63 for hanging it out to the bitter end. And I've had a good time showing pictures and I hope that you've had a good time looking at them. And Bob rescued